The long wait is over, and the moment we have all been waiting for has finally arrived. I recently shared with you guys that Matt Armstrong has officially begun the Bugatti repairs, despite the fact that Bugatti itself has stood its ground and refused to provide parts or support for this rebuild. That alone is already a big deal, but what we're about to uncover during this process is even bigger, because this is no longer just a damaged hypercar story. Before we dive deeper into this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps support content like this. Now let's continue, because this is a story that could change how the entire world looks at Bugatti. Here's the shocking question no one expected to ask. Why would a $6 million Bugatti Hypercar be assembled using body and internal parts from Audi and even BMW? That sounds insane, but as the teardown begins, that's exactly what's being revealed. A car that represents ultimate exclusivity, extreme pricing, and untouchable status is quietly sharing components with brands that produce cars by the thousands. And once you realize that, the illusion around Bugatti starts to crack. As Matt and Alex begin working through the Bugatti, it becomes clear that not every component is a one-off masterpiece built in isolation. Some structural elements, electronic systems, fasteners, and internal modules trace back to Audi's engineering network, and in some cases, even BMW-linked suppliers. That doesn't mean Bugatti is cheap, but it does mean they are not building every single part from scratch. They are borrowing proven systems, refining them, and then placing an extreme price tag on the final product. This is where things start to get uncomfortable, because once you know parts are shared, you start asking dangerous questions. If these components already exist elsewhere, why are Bugatti replacement prices so extreme? And that's the wall Matt Armstrong has hit head-on. Bugatti has made their position very clear. They are not interested in helping. If you want parts, you go through them. And if you go through them, you pay whatever number they decide. No negotiation, no explanation, and no flexibility. The prices are simply presented as fact, and you're expected to accept them. One of the most shocking examples is the headlights. Bugatti quoted $150,000 for each headlight. Not for a pair, but for a single unit. That means $300,000 just for the car to have working headlights. Already that number sounds ridiculous, but then something even more unbelievable happened. A private seller, completely outside Bugatti's control, offered 2 headlights for the same $150,000. The same total price Bugatti wanted for just one. Same function, same result, but half the cost. And suddenly, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Why is Bugatti inflating prices to this level? This isn't really about headlights, it's about control. Bugatti doesn't price parts based on what they cost to manufacture. They price them based on exclusivity and fear. Fear that owners won't question it. Fear that no one will challenge the system. And fear that the badge alone is enough to justify any number. But Matt didn't back down, and that's why this rebuild matters. Some people have suggested using 3D printing to solve the problem, but Matt has already made it clear that this isn't a realistic option. This isn't a simple project where cosmetic parts can be printed and bolted on. Bugatti tolerances are extreme, the stresses are enormous, and the risks are too high. Printing functional or structural components could compromise safety, performance, and reliability. So instead of taking shortcuts, Matt chose the harder and more controversial path. He started sourcing parts elsewhere, tracking suppliers, cross-checking part numbers, and following the trail beyond Bugatti's official channels. And what he discovered changes everything. Most of the parts on this Bugatti are replaceable, and many of them are nowhere near as expensive as Bugatti claims. Different suppliers, different routes, same components, dramatically lower prices. This is where the entire pricing model starts to fall apart. Bugatti isn't inflating prices by thousands, they're inflating them by millions. Not because the materials are worth that much, but because no one has ever successfully challenged it at this level. And here's the uncomfortable truth. No independent source can truly confirm that a Bugatti Hypercar is objectively worth $5 or $6 million. Not in raw materials, not in parts, and not even in labor. What people are paying for is the idea of exclusivity and the permission to be part of a very small club. With Alex working alongside Matt, this rebuild becomes something much bigger than fixing a broken car. They're not trying to disrespect Bugatti, and they're not trying to destroy the brand. They're trying to understand it. But in doing so, they're exposing a system that was never meant to be seen from the outside. Because if Matt and Alex succeed, the consequences are massive. If they rebuild this Bugatti using sourced parts, without Bugatti's cooperation and at a fraction of the quoted cost, they won't just fix a hypercar. They'll prove to the world that a Bugatti may not actually be worth $5 or $6 million in the way people believe. And that possibility is terrifying for the brand. This is why Bugatti fights so hard to maintain control. Exclusivity only works when it goes unquestioned. The moment people realize parts are shared, prices are inflated, and repairs are possible without factory approval, the illusion starts to collapse. And once that happens, Bugatti becomes what it has always tried to avoid being seen as: a manufacturer, not a myth. The implications extend far beyond just one car sitting in a workshop. Every hypercar manufacturer operates on the same foundational principle: mystique equals value. The factory-only repairs, the restricted parts access, the astronomical service costs, these aren't just business practices. They're carefully constructed barriers designed to keep the ultra-wealthy dependent on the brand. It's a closed ecosystem where only the chosen few are allowed to participate, and Matt and Alex are breaking down the walls. What makes this even more significant is the timing. We're living in an era where information spreads instantly. Every breakthrough they make, every sourced part they identify, every workaround they discover gets documented and shared with millions. The knowledge they're gaining doesn't stay locked in their workshop, it becomes public domain. And that terrifies the hypercar establishment more than anything else. Think about what this means for the resale market. Right now, a crashed Bugatti is considered essentially worthless unless Bugatti approves the repair. But if independent rebuilds become viable, suddenly those write-offs have real value again. The entire economics of hypercar ownership shifts. Insurance companies start questioning inflated repair quotes. Buyers gain negotiating power. The manufacturers lose their monopoly on the afterlife of their vehicles. This story is no longer just about Matt Armstrong versus Bugatti. It's about transparency versus tradition. It's about modern rebuild culture colliding with old-world automotive exclusivity. And right now, the entire hypercar world is watching closely. If this rebuild works, Ferrari will notice. Lamborghini will pay attention. Pagani will start asking questions. Because if one hypercar can be rebuilt independently, the rules change for all of them. But there is still a huge risk. Failure would prove Bugatti right. It would reinforce the idea that these cars are untouchable and that control is absolute. Right now, the Bugatti sits in pieces. Some parts have been sourced, others are still missing, and many questions remain unanswered. But one thing is certain. This rebuild is no longer just about repairing a car. It's about exposing an entire industry. The stakes have never been higher. The world is watching, waiting to see if two determined builders can challenge a century of automotive hierarchy. Every bolt they turn, every system they decode, every obstacle they overcome becomes a blueprint for others to follow. The gatekeepers are losing their grip, and they know it. This isn't just about proving that a Bugatti can be rebuilt. It's about proving that knowledge shouldn't be locked behind corporate walls. It's about democratizing expertise that was deliberately kept exclusive. And what happens next could change everything.